Good morning and welcome to the ATALAYA Mining PLC 2023 AGM proceedings. For that recorded meeting, attendees will be in listen-only mode. Questions can be submitted at any time via the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. To click Q&A, scroll to the bottom, type your question and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question submitted today. However, review all questions and publish responses where appropriate to do so. I'd now like to hand you over to Roger Davey, Non-Executive Chairman. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen here. Just very quickly run through the sort of running order of the day of the meeting. Although the chairman's statement is included in the notice of meeting, I will, for good form and for the people at the meeting, read the chairman's letter first before the formal meeting. We will then have the formal meeting. And can I ask you please to restrict any questions to the matters on hand at the formal meeting. Following this, we'll have a presentation by Alberto on the main activities of the company, and that will be a more open question and answer session. So if I can start then please before the formal meeting with the chairman's letter. The year of 2022 presented a number of external challenges as always, although these were very different from those experienced in 2020 and 21 where COVID-19 affected everyone. We started 2022 with a positive outlook with the pandemic in rapid decline and economies all over the world picking up speed. This feeling of euphoria quickly subsided with the events of the Ukraine in February 22, which immediately impacted the European and global energy markets. Severe spikes in natural gas prices in Europe pushed electricity prices in Spain to over 500 euros per megawatt hour in March 22, and similar levels in late August and early September 22. More of that from that later on. With average realised prices in Q3 reaching around 290 euros per megawatt hour. The year was dominated by geopolitical and macroeconomic factors. For the most part, our operations performed well. The company continued its good track record with copper production totaling 52,300 tonnes compared to 56,000 in 21. A slight reduction in production was a result of lower grades and lower throughput from the pits. The plant performed solidly throughout the year despite the negative impact of the 2022 transport sector strike and related stoppages in the first quarter. The average process plant feed grade of 0.4 copper and the process recovery rate of approximately 86% were consistent with reserve estimates and budgeted figures. Cash costs and all-in sustaining costs for 2022 of $3.16 per pound and $3.37 per pound respectively were on the upper end of guidance provided for the year. This was mainly due again to the increase in electricity costs and other supplies and lower production volumes partially offset by the weaker euro. The strong operating performance shown in the latter part of 2022 continued into 2023, with the plant maintaining throughput above nameplate capacity. Accordingly, copper production guidance for 2023 remains as previously announced in the range of 53,000 to 55,000 tonnes. Despite solid operational performance during 2022, revenues for 2022 were 361.8 million compared to 405.7 million euros in 2021. The reduction was due to lower production volumes and a lower average realised copper price. EBITDA for 2022 was 55.3 million compared to 199 million in 2021. EBITDA was significantly affected by the inflation environment globally and mainly due to the increase in electricity costs during 2022. Mainly due to the increase in electricity costs during 2022 of around 64 million euros. At one point we thought we were working only for the electricity companies. On a much more positive note, as a result of the electricity price so far in 2023 and the benefits from two key company-specific electricity procurement initiatives, we are optimistic on the outlook for overall electricity costs for 2023 and beyond, with a relevant knock-on positive effect on the profitability. The long-term power purchase agreement, PPA, took effect on the start of 2023. This 10-year agreement will provide the company with approximately 31% of its current electricity requirements at a fixed rate that is over 75% lower than the estimated average realised electricity price in 2022, and also, in fact, below the rates realised in 2021. The company continues as well in the advance of its construction of its 50 megawatt solar plant at Rio Tinto, which is expected to provide approximately 22% of its current electricity needs when fully operational in late 2023. Combined, the 50 megawatt solar plant and the long-term PPA will provide over 50% of the company's current electricity requirements at a rate well below historical prices in Spain. The company continues to evaluate additional renewable initiatives that could deliver further low-cost, carbon-free electricity for its operations at Rio Tinto, including the use of wind turbines. For additional growth prospects, the company is currently focusing on 5 main projects. The company remains fully committed to the development of the Touro copper project in Galicia in the north of Spain. Running parallel with the permitting process, the company is focused on a number of initiatives relating to securing the social license, including engaging stakeholders in the region in advance of its plans to submit a new improved project design. In the south, at the project Massa Valverde, exploration work is ongoing with 3 core rigs, diamond core rigs, continuing to be active with encouraging drill results. Drill target definition continues to progress, and the first drill testing is planned at Rio Tinto East, another area. 2 short drilling programs were completed at Vinchona and Chaparral copper gold projects at Proyecto Oso Moreno. Finally, in February 23, the company announced the completion of a new preliminary economic assessment for the Proyecto Rio Tinto that contemplates a new integrated mine plan for the Cerro Colorado, adding San Dionisio and San Antonio on the direct connection to the Cerro Colorado, which has the potential to increase copper production by increasing the blended head grade processed at the Rio Tinto's 15 million tonne a year plant. The company continues to advance construction of the Elix Phase 1 plant. Its activities have included the completion of most civil and construction and structural work, with equipment now being assembled. Commissioning of the plant is expected in the second half of 2023. Once operational, the Elix plant is expected to produce high purity copper or zinc metals on site, allowing the company to potentially achieve higher metal recoveries from complex polymetallic ores, lower transportation and concentrate treatment charges, and a reduced carbon footprint. Our balance sheet remains strong, and this allows the company to continue to invest in growth and cost reduction initiatives. Including Elix, higher grade ore bodies, and exploration across our portfolio. In addition, our financial strength means we are well positioned to develop Touro should approvals be granted, which could become a new source of copper production in Europe. I'd like to thank Harry Liu, who stepped down from our board following a long period of service, and also welcome Kate Harcourt to the company's board. Kate has immense experience in sustainability, and we look forward to publishing our second sustainability report in 2022. I would like to take this opportunity to express our appreciation for the continued dedication and commitment of the management and staff. At the same time, I would like to thank not only the board members for their continued support, guidance, and close involvement with the company activities, but also our valued shareholders for their continued and appreciated support. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd now like to move to the formal part. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the annual general meeting of ATALAYA Mining. My name is Roger Davey, chairman of the company, and with the consent of the meeting, I will again be very proud to act as the chairman of the meeting. No? Please let me introduce my fellow directors. We have Alberto Lavandeira, Neil Gregson, Kate Harcourt. Stephen Scott is, I think, on this side. We have apologies, I'm afraid, from Jesus Fernandez and Hussein Balmer, who unfortunately could not be present here today. The secretary, the meeting will now come to order, and with your consent, I shall ask Dominic Gurney-Champion to act as secretary and scrutineer of the meeting. Dominic, on my right. The following documents have been tabled: the circular containing the notice of meeting, the form of proxy, and the annual report containing the audited consolidated financial statements for the year ending 31st of December 2020. These documents are available for any shareholder to examine if you so wish. The annual general meeting of the company was convened by the notice to shareholders dated the 1st of June 2023. May I take the notice as read? Seeing no objections, I will take the notice as read. I advise that there is a quorum present, and that notice calling this meeting has been given in accordance with the company's articles of association. I now therefore declare that the meeting is properly called and constituted for the transaction of business. I may now turn to the resolutions put before the meeting and propose each resolution in turn to the meeting. Resolution number 1 provides for the receipt and consideration of the audited consolidated financial statements of the company for the year ended 31st December 2022 and the reports of the directors and auditors therein. In respect of Resolution 1, we have proxy votes have been cast as follows: for 94,845,701, which is effectively 100%, against 58,206, and withheld 176. I now propose resolution number 1 as an ordinary resolution. Those in favour, please. Thank you very much. Those against? I declare the resolution carried. With the consent of the meeting, I'd rather not read the detailed numbers of the for and against, because all the proxies are in the range of between 85 and 99%. So if you don't mind, I'll just declare the proxies as a positive vote. Otherwise, we'll be here all day listening to 94,864,000. So the second resolution, number 2, provides for the re-election of Mr. Roger Davey as director of the company. In respect of resolution 2, again 93% for. Can I ask the shareholder, please, to propose resolution number 2? Thank you, Alberto. Those in favour? Thank you. Those against? Otherwise, I'll see you outside. Resolution number 3 provides for the re-election of Mr. Alberto Lavandeira as director of the company. Again, proxy votes are 100%. I now propose the resolution number 3 as an ordinary resolution. Those in favour? Thank you very much. Those against? Resolution number 4 provides for the re-election of Mr. Jesus Fernandez Lopez as a director of the company. In respect to resolution 4, again, it's 100% for. So I now propose the resolution number 4 as an ordinary resolution. Those in favour? Thank you. Those against? Thank you very much. I declare the resolution carried. Resolution number 5 provides for the re-election of Dr. Hussein Barma as director of the company. In respect to resolution 5, again 100% for. I now propose the resolution number 5 as an ordinary resolution. Those in favour? Thank you. Those against? I declare the resolution carried. Resolution number 6 provides for the re-election of Mr. Neil Gregson as director of the company. In respect to resolution 7, 97% for. I now propose resolution number 6 as an ordinary resolution. Those in favour? Thank you. Those against? Resolution 7 provides for the re-election of Mr. Stephen Victor Scott as director of the company. Again, overwhelming for vote. I now propose the resolution number 7 as an ordinary resolution. Those in favour? Thank you. Thank you. Re-election. I declare the resolution carried. Sorry. Resolution number 8 provides for the re-election of Mrs. Kate Jane Richards, Mrs. Jane Harcourt. In respect of resolution 8, again overwhelmingly for. I now propose the resolution number 8 as an ordinary resolution. Show of votes. Thank you very much. Those in favour, those against? No. I declare the resolution carried. Resolution number 9 provides for the re-election of Ernst & Young Cyprus Limited as the auditors of the company. In respect of resolution 9, again overwhelming 100% for. I now propose the resolution number 9 as an ordinary resolution. Those in favour? Thank you. Thank you. Those against? I declare the resolution carried. Resolution 10 provides for the declaration of a final dividend for the financial year ending 31st of December 2022 of US dollars 0.0385 per ordinary share of the company. Again, overwhelmingly 100% for. So I now propose resolution number 10 as an ordinary resolution. Thank you. Those in favour, those against? No. Thank you. I declare the resolution carried. Resolution number 11 authorises the directors to grant, pursuant to the ATALAYA Mining PLC Long-Term Incentive Plan 2020, options to subscribe for up to 6,993,960 ordinary shares of 7.5p each in the capital of the company, ordinary shares, representing approximately 5% of the company's issued share capital, at an exercise price in accordance with the terms of the Long-Term Incentive Plan. In respect to resolution 11, the proxy votes are for 82%. I now propose the meeting resolution number 11 set out in the notice convening the annual general meeting. As at least 50% of the company's issued share capital is represented at the meeting. In order for the resolution to be effective, it must be passed by a simple majority of the votes cast on the resolution. Can I ask those in favour, please? Thank you. Those against? Thank you very much. I declare the resolution carried. Resolution number 12 authorises the directors to issue or grant rights to subscribe for up to an aggregate of 13,987,921 shares, ordinary shares, representing approximately 10% of the current issued share capital of the company, as if the rights of pre-exemption in section 60B of the company's law did not apply. Such ordinary shares issued or rights to subscribe for ordinary shares granted pursuant to this authority will be at a price of not less than 20% discount to the market price of an ordinary share on AIM for the 10 trading days immediately preceding such issue or grant. In respect of Resolution 12, again, proxy voting votes are having 100%. I now propose resolution number 12 set out in the notice convening the annual general meeting. As at least 50% of the company's issued share capital is represented at the meeting, in order for this resolution to be effective, it must be passed by a simple majority of the votes cast on the resolution. Those in favour, please. Thank you. Those against? Thank you very much. I declare the resolution carried. Resolution 13 provides for an amendment to the company's Articles of Association by the addition of a new Regulation 161 as follows, entitled Re-Domiciliation. 161. The company may, by a special resolution and upon consent given by the Registrar of Companies, continue to exist as a legal person subject to the legal regime of a country or jurisdiction other than the Republic of Cyprus to be operated pursuant to the laws of such country or jurisdiction. In respect of Resolution 13, we have proxy votes of 100%. Effectively, I now propose resolution number 13 as a special resolution to be effective. It must be approved by at least 75% of the votes cast at the meeting. Those in favour, please. Thank you. Those against? Thank you very much. I declare the meeting, the resolution carried. Thank you. Sorry it took so long. That completes, in fact, the formal business of the annual general meeting. And I thank everybody for attending. Alberto will now make his presentation on the company's activities, where we can have a question and answer session. And after which we'd like to invite you all to stay and join us for refreshments. If we have some somewhere? We do. Good. Thank goodness for that. And take the opportunity to discuss the business further if you wish. So thank you very much. I'll now hand over to Alberto for the presentation.
Check. Thank you very much, Roger. I'm going to try not to repeat the figures that Roger has shown. Let's try to summarize briefly what we have done in 22, how 2023 is going, and what is the future for this company. 22 was a tough year where we produced more or less as expected, and slightly less due to a strike in Spain, and with much higher cash costs, especially due to the high inflation related to energy prices. Even with that, we completed the year with a good cash flow position of a net cash position of 53 million euros and generated a 55 million euros EBITDA. From the asset level, we continue to progress. We continue to progress the announcement we had in the satellites around Rio Tinto, where San Dionisio, San Antonio historic deposits that were partially mined in the past, and Masa Valverde, that's something that we have acquired some time ago. We published the technical reports on those projects, and we started exploring around the belts to find new resources. And we also started with the construction of something called Helix and a solar plant, and I will talk about that a little bit. An important thing from the corporate point of view is finally we got rid of Astor. We concluded all the litigations. after having to pay 53 million euros, which was not a bad outcome because we had to pay after several years. And we also paid an interim dividend besides the dividend we had paid in 21. And the board has approved another small dividend to complete that first dividend. A long-standing shareholder, XGC, sold their stake because they run into trouble in the real estate in China. So the shares were executed by a bank, and he resigned as being non-executive director. He was one of the kind of founders of the company. So this person was substituted by others. And the main addition to the board was Kate Harcourt, which brings a lot of experience from the sustainability point of view, which is consistent with the establishment of a sustainability committee in our company and the publishing of the first sustainability report in 21, and now recently the 22 report. And also related to ESG matters, we commissioned a water treatment plant in Touro, which I will speak about that, which is essential to get the permits. So that was 22 in a nutshell. So how things are going in 23? We're almost half the year. First quarter, 12,000 tons of copper, a little bit with EBITDA 24 million, a little bit lower than if you divide the whole guidance of 55,000 in 4, but we are on track for our guidance. We expect to be substantially higher production and lower costs during the second quarter. So I think you should reasonably expect that we'll be within the guidance for 2023. Our cash position to continue to be okay, despite the fact that we're investing heavily in the solar plant and in the Helix. And this situation will continue as we speak during the year. We continue doing lots of activities in our assets. And as a result of that, we got permits, so ready to start mining in Masa Valverde. So it will be an underground mine where we'll truck the ore to the existing plants. And we already also got environmental permits for the expansion of Rio Tinto, especially that gives us space for additional 10 years of tailings capacity. It's been a process of almost 3 years, so imagine how important is this. And also, we continue with the construction of Helix and Sora. An important point is that we continue with our plans to move to London as our main list. As a first step of that, we have finally delisted from Toronto. We didn't have too many shareholders there, minority shareholders, so finally, we do this as a cost-saving exercise. And we are on track to be. Our target is to be listed at the end of the year in the main market in London. From the health and safety point of view, we continue with good safety results. We continue with the restoration and water treatment plant of Touro, which is essential for the permits, and we continue to evaluate more renewals. So now in a very short, how this is the future of the company. You can see the growth of this company from back in 2015, when we restarted the old dormant plant of around 4.5 million tons per year to basically 15 million tons per year during the last 4 years, quite established production. So the question marks that were raised by some people about the ability of the production to be extended after such a short ramp-up period and such a short capital has been not been proved. We also, as a result of that, we have been producing between 52 and 55, 56,000 tons of copper. It's quite a low grade, which means the operations are going quite well. So let's talk briefly about the main issue on 2022 and what's changed in 2023. In in different colors in the slide, you will see in the lower part what was the price of electricity in the Spanish market back in 2020. It was quite low due to the COVID, obviously, the crisis. But in any case, we had a fixed price of around 60, which is the two lines in the bottom are 0 and 100, so more or less slightly higher than half the way between 0 and 100. The next year in gray, you will see that started low, but then it started going up in the last part of the year due to the escalation of the gas prices. And the black line, which is in the upper part, is you can see two big spikes, one in February, late February, one in August, which are the invasions related to the invasion of Ukraine, and with the heat wave that happened to be in Spain, coincident with the blowing of the pipes of the Baltic. Those prices of electricity of 300 to 500 were basically 5 times higher than what we used to have in the past. What did we do about that? We hedged for 10 years in that small spike that you can see downwards in February. We covered ourselves for 30% of our production at around 54 for 10 years, starting in January 23, taking advantage of the market at that moment to be able to make sure we were covered at less than we used to have, less price than we used to have. We also started with the permitting and construction of a solar plant, ordering all the equipment. But besides that, the gas has stabilized due to the situation of gas. As you know, Europe is not so dependent on Russia anymore. And since January, in the kind of brown lines, you can see that the market prices of electricity have been always, in general, under 100. And actually, recently, they're around 100 euros per megawatt hour. That's the price of the market. And 30% of that we pay at around 55, which means our price is under 100, which is roughly half what it used to be. So this is essential because last year we used to pay in previous years 20 million euros of electricity bill. And last year we paid 88. So it was 68 million euros that went directly to your cash flow pre-tax. And of course, the electricity also has relation with the line, with the line prices, with the other consumables, and with inflation in general. So I think we are in a good start, and we will continue looking at opportunities to hedge a little bit more in the future. But besides that, as I said before, finally we got all the panels on site. We are starting the construction. There were some delays with permits of the village of Rio Tinto and some supply issues. Finally, it looks like at the end of this year, we'll have another 20% of our needs basically covered at zero price. And of course, this is forever. In addition to that, why are we so interested in electricity? We have started something called ELEX. ELEX could be named for electricity leaching, and it's something that, just in case you are not familiar with it, it basically consists of leaching zinc and copper concentrates using electricity as the main consumption. So for us, it's very important to have cheap electricity prices. Last year, we decided the construction of a first phase plant, and this is how it looks in the last months. It's going a little bit slower than we had expected due to being a novel process and due to being constructed by some company where we finance. But finally, we'll have the commissioning of this plant in the later part of this year, at the end of the summer. You can see some pictures of outside. Inside, you can see, for example, the position of the electrolytic cells that are already there. So things are moving, probably slower than I would have liked, but they're moving quite fast in general for such a complex and new project. All the motor control centers are on site, basically waiting for cables to be distributed, including transformer equipment. So all the equipment is on site. And as you can see, it's quite a complex installation that will be ready to be commissioned at the end of the year. And why is this important? People may ask, well, why are you interested in Helix? At the end of the day, you only have copper. Well, we do have copper. We do have copper, but we are only mining copper in the center of the pit that you see in the center of the picture. That's called Ferrocobrado. If we didn't have anything else, we would be mining for around 10 years. I remind you that we've been mining already for 8 years. So it's talking about 18 years mining at the higher phase. When back in 2013, the feasibility study was showing a project of 12 years life. So in the foreground and in the background, we have two deposits called San Antonio, San Dionisio, which are historic deposits that are well known. But you can see that have higher copper grade and have good zinc values. Well, the first thing we said is, how can we put this into our mill? So we commissioned certain studies how we could blend these deposits with our open pit. How this looks if I made a vertical section along this pit, it will be looking something like this. At the left side, you will see the Atalaya pit. And you can see some red color, rates of copper over 1%. And orange and yellow is over 0.2%. So anything that's yellow is interesting, and red. And you can see on the right side a higher grade, flattish deposit going down that will be mined underground. You can see several things. In the centers where we mine the Ferrocobrado, in the two sides you can mine a big part of it with an open pit, and parts of it underground. And the right side we'll mine it only using underground methods. So this is the reason why Helix would be very important. In any case, when we commissioned with Tetrotech a PEA, we said, look, I want you to put a plan here, how we can mine this the next 15 years using just flotation. And we put a plan together. But because we have these zinc deposits, it will be very interesting to also have some other means of recovery in zinc. With very low recoveries for copper and zinc, what I mean copper in the range of 70s versus our 86 right now, and with zinc also in the range of the 70s, we will get in these results of production and some results of after-tax net present values at certain discount rates, which I will speak with. What is the effect of Helix? Well, we are in 23. And we can assume that until 26, we don't need zinc. Zinc is shown in black. It's shown as copper equivalent, but actually it's zinc and lead. It means before 26, we have to decide if we are going to go with straight flotation or we are going to with Helix. So right now we have this industrial plant being constructed because we believe that this thing can help. Why it can help? Because the recovery is using this leaching basically is like trying to separate small crystals of sugar, brown sugar and white sugar by hand versus dissolving that. When you dissolve them, you get basically 100% recovery, 95% recovery. So the differential recoveries between one method and the other are huge. It's like 20 points. In any case, we are, as you know, we are quite conservative, and we assume this plan even without considering Helix. With this plan, our production will get us to over 60,000 tons of copper in the next 4 years, only copper without adding any zinc or at least minimum zinc, and then going to over 100,000 tons of copper equivalent, including the copper and the zinc. At long-term prices, copper prices of 385, which is our current price, flat for the next 15 years, the cash flow undiscounted, which is the cash flow you use after tax, the cash flow you use to pay dividends, is 2.7 billion, which is more than 5 times our market cap. Even if we discount it at 8%, it will be 1.4 billion, which is roughly 3 times our market cap. Of course, we believe that the copper price in 15 years is going to be much higher than that. And you can see our leverage. This project will still be economic even at very low copper prices, but at higher copper prices, and we believe the market is going to over $4, the undiscounted cash flow is over 3 billion, and the discounted cash flow after tax is 1.5, which is more than 5 times our cash flow. So I think we have a very nice future at the Rio Tinto itself. And this is assuming that in the next 15 years, we don't discover any reserves or resources from any of the satellites like Asa Valverde, Bajadales, or any of the places that we are drilling. This is just one of the parts of our growth. The other one is total. I'm really sorry to be saying every day, because every year, we get the permits of total. Because I'm from the area. What you're seeing in the picture is the old pits that were mined back in '87, the last time. And in the bottom picture is the old plant. We are going to be putting a new plant. But we got in 2020 a negative environmental impact declaration. So that negative declaration was due to, I think it was political reasons, but the main thing is, look, two excuses. One is that we cannot guarantee that the tailings are not going to break, tailings ponds are not going to break like they did in the Brazilian disaster of Brumadinho that happened previous year and flood the rivers. And second is that there is remnant acid water from the past historic mines that if you see what happened in the past, then it's going to happen in the future. Well, for the first statement, we said, look, we are going to remove the water from the tailings. So it's not water on top of the tailings, it's impossible that it breaks and makes out. Second thing, we are going to fix the water situation, which is a quite unusual case because normally this was going to be done after we started up. We said, look, Mr. Authorities, actually Mrs. because it's a lady running the water authority, allow us to fix the water situation, which is a legacy situation, which is not our problem, the same way that we were going to do it as promised in the project. Let us show you that can be done. Then that's in the future when working is going to be worse. It's not true. We did that. We were allowed to take the plant, started operating the plant since the beginning of the year, working in closed circuit. But the result of this, and this is visible, is that the rivers that are flowing under the total project, in the left slide, you can see how was the Lañas River, which takes the water from all seepage. Back in August 2021, the water is not that dirty as it looks, but there was a precipitation. There was a precipitation of iron in the stones, and what you can see in the right side, hopefully you can see it well, is the pristine river, the same picture from the same position, with the river totally pristine. Obviously, this is known by the authorities, and this gives us a very good feel that now those two excuses cannot be used anymore. And there's a third reason why we believe this time is different. In the past, we used to have some people saying no to the mine. You may even remember 4 years ago, some activists coming to our AGM saying that they didn't want the mine. And there were two persons, one was local. Well, couple of months ago, we got 3,000 people saying yes to the mine, getting together into a party. They are all local, and you seldom find these things in the mine. Normally, communities will be very vocal, saying we are against the mine, and it's not very common that the TV comes there and shows the local support for this project. So we are very confident with this. So with all this, where are we going? Where I see this company? Well, in the range of 54,000 tons of copper produced this year. In the next 4 years, close to 60,000. Growing to 91,000 tons. So this is just copper and copper equivalent. And then with Touro, we will be going, that's the average of the years. with total another 30,000 tons. So our company in, I would say 3 years' time, will be in the range of 100,000 tons, 120,000 tons of copper, which is doubling the gain what we doubled from 2015 to 2019. And why we believe this, the shareholders will benefit. The copper is going up. The copper consumption is going up in the left graph. I'm sure you have seen it in lots of studies. It's going up simply because there's more people in the world, and there's more people living in the cities. They all want their car, their fridge, their TV, etc. But on top of that, it has been the normal growth that you can see in the gray part of the graph. We have something that's been done in all the countries, which is electrification. We are not talking about electrification of vehicles. We're talking about the use of green energies to try to reduce the carbon CO2 in the world. So there is a clear increase in demand and a consensus of deficit of around 6 million tons in the next 6 years. 6 years is nothing. 6 years is a blink in the eye and you are there. The biggest producer, which is Codelco, and this is public information just released a few days ago, is going down on their mines. This is their own statement. They struggle to keep production flat with huge investment, yes, in the next few years. So they will be lucky if they can stay as they are. And only in 2030, they may get some projects, new projects being constructed. And why only then? Let's look at the right side of the picture. What's the real cost of projects? Quebrada Blanca, Quellaveco, Cobre Panamá. I could also mention Oyu Tolgoi in Mongolia, all between $7 billion investments, carried in 5 to 10 years. Very high capital intensities with lots of issues of with the new ports, desalination, water lines, people, getting people. This is something that we don't have.
Ladies and gentlemen, do bear with me just while we reconnect to the room. Ladies and gentlemen, do just bear with me while we reconnect to the room for the meeting. We will be back with you shortly. Alberto, can you hear me from your machine?
Because I'm not seeing
Alberto?
Support the camera.
Ladies and gentlemen, just wait momentarily while we get reconnected to the room. We're just coming back in now. Bear with me 1 second, Alberto, we'll just get you reconnected. Just accept control and we'll bring you back through. Ladies and gentlemen, do just bear with me while we get the connection back. Just requesting control there, Alberto, thank you. Alberto, you're back with us. Thank you very much indeed. You can see the slide deck in front of you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. We will just resume.
So, in other words, each time is getting more difficult. Even if we wanted to build new mines, we want to fill this supply gap. Just to give you an idea of how big is this gap of 6 million tons. You can see it in the upper corner of the slide. It's equivalent to the production of 5 times what Codelco will be producing, like 6 times Escondida, which is the largest mine in the world, like 20 mines of Quellaveco. So simply, there's no time to build this production. So we are very confident that eventually when China starts opening up normal economy, like the rest of the world is moving in this electrification, let's say, sequence or new life of the world, we are going to be seeing a huge consumption of copper, which can take a few years to come, but it's not a question if it will come or not, it will be a question of when. Why would you invest in ATALAYA? Well, in London, if you want to invest in copper, there's only Antofagasta and us, also Taseco in a certain way, and other companies are half copper, half other metals, of the large companies. We believe we are very small, obviously, but we believe we will be moving to the left side of the graph where we can be a company with much higher market cap and higher liquidity. And with that, I'm happy to take some questions from here, and also to go and see the questions that have been pre-submitted. And at least we have 2, 3. So if I'm going to read all the questions, and I have a very interesting and tough, and I would say untrue, a question filled of untruth, of lack of truths, that normal with my behavior, I will answer and reply, and if possible, as clear as possible. So I will start reading the questions that I have here. So, how do you see ATALAYA benefiting from energy transition and the need for more and more copper? Will you benefit from IRA in the US? Do you see the benefits of having assets in Europe rather than South America and other jurisdictions? Well, yes, we will benefit because copper price has to go up due to this energy transition, and obviously we are very leveraged to copper. There's no such IRA in Europe, but there's something similar where copper has been included in the critical metals, which means that Europe has given some instructions that some copper has to be, those metals have been produced in Europe, and also give some guidelines for permitting to speed up permitting. This will obviously be essential for Touro because it will be very hard for the Galician authorities to say that they do not have the technicians and the equipment and the knowledge and the controls to be able to construct a mine while they're able to construct cars like Stellantis has one of the big factories in Spain, or ships, or nice wines, or Zara nice clothes. So it will be very difficult for the Galician government after these orders from Europe to benefit from this. And of course, yes, we benefit. We believe that we are positioned uniquely in the EU because of the safe jurisdiction, because some of these mines that I've seen, that I mentioned before, that are needed to grow and to balance the market are in, let's call it, funny places, like some parts of South America, some of the mountains of North America and parks, some countries in Asia, or deep in the middle of native title grounds, which are not going to be so easy and so secure and like in the EU. EU can take longer, but it's a kind of safe jurisdiction. Future expanding strategy, there is a talk that Spain will have the largest lithium in Europe. Infinity Lithium Corporation, Northvolt, Valoriza, the project is subject to similar resistance from local activists. ATYM has expertise in permitting. Are there any talks with this group? Is there opportunity to present itself? Should Atalaya not buy a stake? Well, it's a tough question. Look, I don't like to speak of other companies. This asset, it has opposition, but it's nothing to do with the position that we have. Actually, as you have seen, we have local people are totally in favor. The only position comes from very specific small groups, environmental groups that are against the mining in general. They're also against windmills, against absolutely everything. In the case of this company, the project is very close to living houses. So houses will be at the edge of the pit. When it was initially rejected, now they're going underground. So the resistance is more due to the fact that there are people living there and they don't like to see a line close to the swimming pool. Besides that, I am not an expert on this project, and I cannot say if it's interesting or not. Specifically, this project doesn't mean we don't like lithium. Linked to the previous question, can Atalaya please explore the EV chain, lithium and cobalt? Is this being considered? Yes, it's being considered. Yeah, we have been looking at several metals, not only copper, and specifically these metals included here. Is Atalaya mining 24 hours a day? Yes, of course, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We only stopped the plant for preventive maintenance, which is carried several months. Stop the whole plant for a few days and then run again all the time. The waste from last 8 years, can this be reprocessed with Helix? Any value? Actually, it's a very interesting question. I think Helix would be better used for high value materials, and waste with low grade would probably not be a high value. But having said that, it's a very good question because we have huge dumps of around 0.2% copper, and our cutoff is around 0.18 at these copper prices. What does it mean? But if copper prices went up to $5 per pound, and I see that happening in the future, obviously all these dumps would be economic to be treated because they are already accounted for as a cost, so they don't have any mining cost, any waste cost. So they would be an additional resource that right now we are not contemplating. We're just keeping this stored, and just keeping this stored, and in the future we'll be treating this. This question is likely to have been asked moving to the main board. Can you make this a priority? Yes, we have this as a priority. We were moving to the main board and we had an issue with the taxes since the Brexit. Due to the UK not being in the EU, the Spanish tax authorities considered that the main asset was in Spain. So they considered that the company was basically selling shares of Atalaya Mining and being given a share of a new company called Atalaya Metals, which even had a name. And that would trigger some tax payments in Spain, and of course, probably in other places, due to the fact of being non-EU. So that route was removed. But we continue with moving to the main board, and we plan to do this at the end of this year. That's the target. Basically, we'll be listing the shares instead of AIM, listing them in the main board. Besides that, we are looking also at listing the shares in a EU jurisdiction country, call it France, Madrid, Netherlands, because we have lots of shareholders that cannot buy shares in AIM or shares in the UK. We have acknowledged in the past that size is important for a mining company. Will ATALAYA make acquisitions to grow? Will we merge with other entities to grow? I can tell you that we have looked at lots of companies. We have been signing CAs and even making offers, final offers and binding offers to companies. Unfortunately, we were not successful because we really need to show a return to our shareholders. We will not merge for the sake of merging, just to grow. For one simple reason, it has to be something that makes sense and that creates value. Because you shareholders, we will be asking you to dispose, imagine we merge with somebody at 50-50. Would you please dispose 50% of your shares to buy another company, another 50% of the shares of other company, just because you are larger? If it makes sense, yes. If 2 + 2 is more than 4, it's fine. But normally, due to this fact of the market premiums and so on, and some people are requesting cash, we did not see return, and we didn't make any progress on that. But we will continue looking with patience, and the opportunities we have acquired in the past have been also always with limited expenditures. What dividend outlook can you make, please? Well, this year we have a small dividend that has been approved due to the relative low cash flow generation. Although our policy will be to give a 30 to 50% dividend, or equivalent to between 30 and 50% our free cash flow. And we have been consistent to that. And I only have one long question, which is very interesting because normally I think I should have ignored it. But it includes such a statements that I think would be unfair for the team and the company not to say. Where is the investment opportunity in ATALAYA? 10 years of historic share price proves that simply there's none. This is one. You can clearly see the excellent remuneration and returns of executive board members enjoy from the company year to year, including their amazing ability to dispose of their free shares at historic heights. Well, I will stop and it continues. I will start saying this last statement of selling shares at historic highs, it contradicts with the fact that saying that the share price has been going down all the time. So something is wrong, either one of the two statements, which is also not true. Also, 10 years of historic share prices prove that simply isn't one. When the new team came into this company, I just checked. Our share price equivalent to now was around 120, and it went down to 95. I have it in front of me. Back in 15, we were under 100 pennies, or £1, in almost 1 year. We have reached $4 per pound, and now we are around 320. Well, I'm sure that going through COVID, going through 3 expansions, and still behaving like that has given you, or this gentleman, ample opportunity to dispose his shares. I'm sure he has lots of faith in our company. But it continues because also the rewards to the lawyers, accountants, and procurement. It's funny. I think it looks like the lawyers and accountants and procurement, supposed to be in purchases, are rewards, are not payments. Look, I suppose in this gentleman, the shareholder, which I think I know the name and maybe in Spanish, believes that the lawyers and accountants work for free, especially if they're good ones, and procurement is you buy things also for free, because probably this is what used to happen in the past. But the hard fact is that shareholders have had no return in real terms. Investors in the shares of a company do not see a return in their investment and do not hear. do so to see a return in their investment, not to hear promises of returns, not to see the executive board continually rewarding themselves. Their share price, as I write, is struggling about 3. In the past 10 years, the price of copper has doubled, but shares in ATALAYA are now below the price prior to consolidation. I will continue and then I will reply. And that's why I know where it's coming from. Investors actually saw better returns on their investment when the business was struggling as a starter called EMED. Well, let me continue. Price of the shares of EMED, the consolidated, went from around 3 up to 8, fantastic, to drop in the same year under 1. So it's a small drop, up and down. After 10 years, ups and downs. And when we got the company back in 2015, actually had been going down after 8 years, around 150, around half of the price that it was initially in 2005. Why does the share price of this company fail to reflect the investment put in, the rises in copper price and its profitability? Perhaps the board and your appointed brokers are simply enjoying the lifestyle of this business, affords them, and they cannot sell the investment story. Maybe it's true. The reality is that in the past, in this company you used to love called INET, they had offices in Sevilla, in Cyprus, in Slovakia, in houses paid by the company in Sevilla, Aracena. Right now, we drive our own cars, go every day to the. We work hard. We don't have a minimum office that you can see is quite humble in London, and we continue to work hard for our shareholders. So I do not accept these statements, and I think they are unfair to the existing shareholders and to the past shareholders, and to management, and to the board. And I think I could not stop saying this. And that's all. I think I don't have any more.
Alberto, that's correct. There's no further questions online. If there's anything in the room, or if you'd like to hand back to conclude the online session.
Any more questions in the room?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Could I just say, Alberto, solar plant, if I understand it correctly, when it's up and running next year, it will supply 20% of the energy costs, etc. Is it in your mind to expand that to a bigger plant?
No, because there's a certain limit. I mean, the plant, that's what they call peak capacity, which is basically when the sun is up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, more or less. And that's at that moment we will almost be sourcing all our demand from the plant and minimum from the net. You still need to the net for technical reasons. If you expand beyond that, you will need to store it somewhere, and you will not be able to consume it. So let's say our plant gives 50 megawatts, and we consume 50 megawatts. More or less. So we size to the maximum we could consume.
And the wind turbines, when would it?
Turbines, we are still struggling to find the economics on that because they are so. We are not in a perfect wind area. The price that what they call the levelized cost of energy, which is the price equivalent of the energy that we produce with wind, in that case will be around 45 euros megawatt hour. And that's more or less the futures you can buy anyway. So it would maybe be very nice from the ESG point of view.
Yeah.
But from the economic point of view, and it's fine ESG, but we also have to, has to be economic.
Yeah, I understand.
But we continue.
Just going back to the solar in the UK, there seems to be a trend to put excess electricity into batteries.
The batteries, again, also what they call the levelized cost of energy, right now is over 100. So for a private consumer, maybe it's yes, because there's, the consumption of energy, the prices of energy is, in Spain at least, they are lower in the midday due to the wind and sun, and then they are higher in the sunset and when in the sunrise. So those X, if you have batteries and it's coincident when you have a higher consumption in your office, in your house, waking up or going to bed, makes sense for private consumers. Or in our case, I think it's still more economic to have a long-term price agreement with the consumption company. And now, if you look in the future prices in Spain, you could lock in 56 euros per megawatt hour. So there's a page called OMIP, which anyone can look at, and you see the future prices starting in January. Right now, you can lock 56 euros. So there's no sense to put the batteries so far. In the future, it will come. It will come especially because you have hours during the day that the price is zero. And certain days with wind and sun.
Thank you.
Just a question about foreign exchange. If the pound gets stronger against dollar and euro, and dollar gets weaker against other currencies, what would the impact be on the profitability of the company?
The pound and euro, well, I think the only change is for the share price because most of our costs are in euros or dollars. I would say 70% are in euros and 30% are in dollars. In dollars are treatment charges, shipping charges, smelters, and things like that. And here in pounds, we don't have too much costs. I mean, some office costs, fees, listing fees, lawyers, accounting, not much. So it doesn't affect too much.
So generally neutral.
Yeah, doesn't affect much. What's important is the euro. We would like a weak euro.
Don't we all?
Thank
you. Yes.
Just finally,
Please.
how realistic do you think we're going to get onto the main market by the end of the year?
Okay, I'm here.
I remember talking to you this time last year.
Indeed.
Bitterly disappointed we weren't there by the end of 22.
Indeed, yes. And as Alberto mentioned, that was mainly because the transactions was expected to be done firstly coming to the UK and then afterward going to the main market. So obviously being listed on the premium listed has always been a priority and continues to be a priority. So we have started doing some good work on it and we're progressing. So we are appointed advisors and we have a lot of leverage of the work that we did last year. And we're in a very good position to, get it done as soon as possible. It is in our mind to get it done before year end, but again, we also expected this last year, and I don't want to disappoint you.
No. It's difficult when you have to rely on other people.
Exactly. And I think according to the advisors, there's a very little chance that we can have delays, but there are always, can come things that you didn't expect. But just to remark that this is a priority for the company, and we know this is a feedback that we are consistently receiving from the shareholders, and it's in our priority list and continues to be in the priority list, and we try to execute as soon as possible.
In my view, it can only be very good once we get listed on the main market. It opens up the doors for institutions that can't buy on AIM shares or companies abroad. So the sooner the better.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Well, shall we retire for some refreshments and some more informal questioning?
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. I'd like to thank the board for updating attendees today. Can I please ask attendees not to close the session, as you'll be automatically redirected to provide your feedback in order the team can better understand your views and expectations. There's no taking feedback greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the board of ATALAYA Mining, I'd like to thank you for attending today's annual general meeting. Thank you and good morning to you.
Thank you.